Know about how a bad guy thinks. It's not enough to just see him, you gotta know how the villain works. So long live the Empire, and let's bring out Giancarlo Esposito!
Look at all you bright spirits hanging out in the room this morning. We love Toronto!
So this is incredible. I mean, when I saw you on The Mandalorian, I knew we were going to be treated to a different level of evil. Now, I don't know if that's a compliment, but you have a real tendency to play these tremendously, deliciously evil characters. And I'm just wondering, is that something that you look for in a character?
No, not at all. I look for a complete script, and I look for a story that is inspiring and something that moves us in our imagination from one place to another. It just happens that I'm asked to play characters who have somewhat of an edge and may represent the dark side in some particular projects, maybe more than one. But I look for a story that exemplifies our hero and heroine's journey. And if you're really about story, particularly in the Star Wars universe or The Mandalorian, what is underneath the words and the actions is the journey that we all take, whether we realize it or not, and that is the hero or heroine's journey. It encompasses being courageous, it encompasses having truth, organic energy inside that allows you to get to where you want to go.
So is that what drew you to Star Wars?
What drew me to this particular project was hard to say no to Jon Favreau, who calls you and says, I wrote a role for you. And I said, okay, great. That was a great honoring. If you are about Comic-Con, Star Wars, or any other kind of story that spurns your imagination, then you know, as I do, that that's exciting. And it's a world that I loved from when I was a young boy, and I wanted the films to return to a mythological storytelling level, which I believe this particular franchise has done.
And so is that how you switch gears to get into that mythological mode, is to basically think about that journey and the fantasy and the richness?
No, that journey, even so, it is. The answer would be I said no to begin with because I had to commit to playing a guy who's going to push everybody's buttons, who thinks that he is the master of the universe and that he can do it better. However, I attest that the villain, the anti-hero, is really the fallen hero. Think about that. He has all of the qualities of the hero, he or she, but is that hero or heroine who missed the mark, who didn't feel heard, who wanted to be seen. And so that is, in a way, also a heroic journey to eventually see that, oh, I chose the dark side because I could control that. The light side I couldn't control. And so that's Moff Gideon's journey in our Mandalorian. That's also Gustavo Fring's journey in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And a little bit of that sprinkling of that journey is in Stan Edgar, but it's different there because he's a committed company man who is running the show, but we don't know how much of the show he really is running yet.
And I like the similarity among all of those characters is that they're all self-made. They've all risen up through the ranks, and Moff Gideon has to be evil, and not because he understands the ways of the Force, but just because of his inherent proficiency. And all of these characters have that.
Absolutely. Moff Gideon's story, part of the story that we don't know, and I'm not an expert, as probably as many of the audience may be more of an expert even than I, or even you. But when everything fell apart, there were wardens who were placed in different parts of this particular galaxy to maintain order. Now, whether you realize it or not, we are being corralled into being orderly. There is a protocol to life. There is a politeness we must follow. There is a respect that we need to learn to be able to stay within the lines of either our own lines or the lines of what the government, the church says, to create a whole human being who respects others, who, whether you know it or not, is in service to the whole. So when someone steps out, and when everything falls apart, and you have no leadership, and everything is just crumbling, we all would want someone to stand up and have some kind of vision for how to be about all of us. So the guy in Moff Gideon has been given that wardenship over a particular part of geography, landmass, and he sees that the other wardens aren't really as strong and powerful as him, and then he gets a taste of, oh, I can straighten all this out. If you only listen to me, you would all be better. And then underneath it, oh, I have a better vision. I want to do this, this, and this. And then we become, he becomes, in a way, not only drunk with power, but drunk with the idea that his vision is better than anyone else's. So then we don't, and I'm relaying this to all of us as human beings, but particularly to me, then we don't listen anymore. Do you have a suggestion? No good, mine's better. Right? And then we become a little bit like, I can do all this myself. Well, guess what? We're all in this together. And it is for the people and by the people. So when we start to stay in the lines without asking questions as to what's really happening here, who is making all the money, because so many people are, and so many corporations are pushed up and governed by the almighty dollar, whether it be Canadian, US, or otherwise, and we forget that the most important thing is to raise other people up so they can also be leaders with vision, heart, soul, truth, and a collective idea that all of us are better together than the one alone.
Okay. Right? Who needs the dark side of the force when you have that type of charisma? Now, I have a ton of other questions I want to ask you, but I really want to share you with our audience. The last one I will ask you, though, is what's it like working with Dave Filoni?
You know, it's a wonderful thing. You ever meet people, you get in their presence and you feel that they are comfortable in their own skin. Not trying to prove anything, not trying to be anything other than they are. And you want to be around them. They're fun, they're light, they have a twinkle in their eye. Dave Filoni is that guy. You or I, the geeks that we may be or have become, would want to ask him 1,000 questions about the knowledge he has of this universe, and rightfully so. But you meet a guy who doesn't wear his smartness on his sleeve, is not trying to be smarter than anyone in the room. He's like a little kid with a twinkle in his eye. He's a creator, he has a lot of love, but a brilliant mind, and is not afraid to have that creativity flow through and be free with his ideas and share who he really is with all of us. He's brilliant.
Okay, we have a microphone that's set up in the aisle here, and I'm going to ask if you can keep your questions brief so that we can get through as many people as possible.
Mr. Esposito, as a chemistry teacher, Breaking Bad has been maybe a blessing and a curse in some ways to my career, but definitely when I have students who have seen the show, it definitely spurs a love of chemistry, which is pretty awesome. Working on that show, you were amazing. I'm going to try to keep this short. Vince Gilligan is a genius, and I was wondering, when he came to you to talk about playing Gus Fring, I don't know, maybe he didn't come to you, maybe it was somebody else, but when that role came to you, did you see the full arc of it? Did you see that sort of mythological anti-hero in its entirety?
And is that you? Are you done with it? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
Well, so, I was asked to read for that, and at that point in time I was doing another show, and I was in Canada. I think I was doing Once Upon a Time, another wonderful fairy tale show that I enjoyed doing. And I went in and acquiesced and said I would read, and then I really wanted to have a conversation with Vince in regard to what the character was. So long and the short of it is, I got the role, and then I asked to speak to him because I didn't want to play, I didn't know what he had in mind. And so this plays into us being in control of our power, and that not being the power of ego, but that you are valuable. You're valuable, your ideas are valuable, what you think is valuable, your experience is valuable, what you bring to something. We go for a job interview, we sit there and we're praying and hoping, please hire me, and then we get asked all these questions, but when do we turn and say, what do you have to offer me? How can we collaborate and be together? And so eventually I had a conversation with Vince. I said yes, a couple of guest stars was all they offered. That's all it was. And then they saw, and this is life. If you are enthused, inspired, and passionate about what you do, and you love it, and you show that, they saw that. They were inspired by what I was doing, and I was inspired by their writing. Gus came about for me personally from one stage direction in a paragraph of the very first episode. It was hiding in plain sight. I was intrigued by that. And so when I spoke to Vince, I said, this is Gus's story, in a way. How many times do you know someone, a neighbor who goes to work every day, you see them, you wave, you don't really know what they do, right? And I thought that's an intriguing idea. I didn't want to play a stereotypical villain. I wanted to play someone who was a complete human being who, and you know, if you know it or not, we all have a dark side and a light side. We have a little devil on our shoulder telling us, go do this, and we have a little good person on our shoulder saying, that's not good, that's not good. You know, that's the way life is. That's our growth as human beings. So, to answer your question, they called me back and offered me a contract, and I said no, because they were going into hiatus, and I wanted to know more, right? When did we ever do that? I want to know more. Tell me more. Let's talk about it. And once they saw my commitment, passion, and excitement about the project, they waited. I told them I'm not taking a contract. When you come back, if you still feel the same way, let's talk about it. And we did, and we were off and running. So I really respect Vince as a genius. I respect that he respects human beings. And people will respect you more when you respect yourself. I have something to offer. I want to talk about it. Let's collaborate. And that's where the genius is in all of our lives. It's collaborating and saying, yeah, I don't know if I feel great about that, but let's talk about that. But this I feel wonderful about, this I love, and how about this? And that's what life should be, and oftentimes we don't give ourselves enough credit to know that we can put ourselves in that position in a graceful and beautiful way.
That's cool. Paul had been called back after season 1. He was supposed to, I knew Aaron Paul, Jesse was supposed to die after season 1. But I didn't know that Gus Fring was only supposed to be a temporary character.
Yeah, just a guest spot. I mean, when you do your best, people see it, and if they want more of you, they do. And if they don't, you move on and do something else.
It's amazing. Thank you very much.
Hi there. Nice to meet you. You have something I want, an answer.
You have something I want.
So I want to ask of Gus and Stan Enger, who do you think is the better boss?
That's a good question. I think, it's a hard question. I know we like comparisons in our human brain, and I get asked a lot of comparative questions, and so I stall because it's difficult for me to compare. I think there are two different people. I think Gus has a strong arm effect by the way he bosses. But I would almost, now I've switched up within those words. Gus is a teacher. In our being a boss, we should teach. We shouldn't just, we should know how to delegate, but we should also teach. And I love the moments, I see them with Gus and Lyle. He teaches them how to clean the fryer. That's a great boss, I would say, Gus.
Thank you.
Long live the Empire.
Long live the Empire! Long live the Empire!
Anyway, Giancarlo, you were great in Far Cry 6, so I'd like to know if you'd be interested in reprising your role as Moff Gideon in a future Star Wars video game.
Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? It would be a wonderful thing. I'm hearing Naveed out of Montreal, who actually was the writer of Far Cry, is now moving on to Star Wars and doing something for a Swedish company. I know very little about it, but I'm about to call him. I'm about to call him and say, yo, what's up? Teaser. I said that second long live the Empire for a reason. Season 3, Mandalorian. Watch.
Thank you very much. I hope to see you in the sequel to say Star Wars Squadrons, which I enjoy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, I just got goosebumps.
Hi there. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your experience and your character on Revolution.
Revolution is a show I really enjoy. I think about it a lot lately. I don't know how people are catching up with that show now. A very special show for me. It was my first collaboration with Eric Kripke. And for those of you who are interested, this was my first deep association with Jon Favreau. I had known John. John directed the pilot of Revolution, which Eric Kripke wrote, which J.J. Abrams and Eric Kripke and John produced. So it created this, put me in a world of really wonderful filmmakers and writers and creators. And if you want to be the best, you must then seek out the best to teach you. You must be open enough to say, I'm as good as that, even if you don't have that complete confidence. I do something that's called, I've been acting for 56 years, so, but every actor is insecure. Most of us are. When's our next job gonna come and all that? So if you don't know and you don't feel it, act as if and believe it. That's not ego, that's acting as if. So what you attract will come to you. If you spend 10 minutes a day focusing on what your dream and desire is, then that will come to fruition, because guess what? We are a clear channel to the universe. We're so hooked into our cell phones, our computers, we're so into trying. Guess what? It's easier than that. What do you want? I love saying you have something I want for a reason. Because every person in this room has something to offer. And when I say you have something I want, I may see someone who's smarter than me. I'd love to have your brain. Let's talk. When people say I want to pick your brain, it's a compliment. I don't want to rob or steal. I want to be inspired from inside. But we inspire each other. So when I say that, you have a great love. You have a great trust. You have great courage. You have balance. You have patience. You have something I want. Revolution to me was a great show. I think about it a lot now. I'm doing a new show for AMC called Parish. I play Gracie and Gray Parish in a character who I think is an everyman. I wanted to play an everyman. I didn't want to play a villain. I wanted to move on to playing someone who is just like you. Many of you, many of us. People think I have a charmed life and acting is easy. No, it's not easy. I put a lot into what I do, and I've been from every end of the spectrum, from bankrupt to being driven every day by someone, and it's all the same. There's no difference. My life is no different than any of yours, because I look at myself as on the journey with all of you in humanity. So I think of Revolution because I'm playing a character who has some of the traits of Tom Neville. But he's nicer. He's not as evil. And so great stuff came out of Revolution. I really love it. I think about it often because it represents us as human beings dealing with a world that is crumbling. How and what can you do to contribute to putting it back together? This is our mission.
For the record, I just want to say you are the best in everything we watch. And
you're kind.
You should watch Revolution. He makes the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And thinking of contributions, thank you to our wonderful ASL interpreter.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.